it was school. I was finished with school, and we were going our way to San Francisco. Well, yeah, it was San Francisco. We were going to how's the name of word camp. Anyhow, I remember coming into Pittsburgh.
Mhm.
I remember it was dark already, and you couldn't see out of the one side because that hillside, coming into downtown,
Mhm.
that whole hill.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember we probably stopped maybe Wilkinsburg or Greensburg or something, some reason or other.
Mhm.
And the people got on the train. It was a troop train,
Mhm.
all troops.
Yeah, yeah.
And never first time I ever saw women working trains.
Yeah. Mhm.
I remember that one woman. I can't picture her face, but I can remember her. And I remember at the same time I remember her in that hillside
Mhm.
coming into Pittsburgh. And we stopped in Pittsburgh for, well, change. We didn't change trains or nothing.
Mhm.
Maybe engines, I don't know.
Right, right.
But anyhow, we stopped in Pittsburgh for some reason or another.
Mhm.
Then we went, and I was on that train almost a week to
That's a
go
long
across the
train.
country.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't realize that. Almost always moving. Only time I got off of that train, I remember in one desert we stopped for some reason or another, and that's the first time I ever saw a desert.
Mhm.
And then we stopped one time in Green River, Wyoming.
Ooh.
I remember that. When you got off the train,
Mhm.
we had like 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And I remember we were running up the hill to the first tavern we could see. Got beer. Bought beer down to the train. Bottles, whatever we could carry. In Green River, Wyoming. Never forget that. That's the only time we stopped.
Mhm.
I know we stopped. You couldn't get out, like in Chicago.
Right.
I remember stopping in Chicago when we were coming home, and right along we pulled up alongside another train.
Mhm.
It was all German prisoners of war. They were shipping them back home. They were on the train. They're
Mhm.
taking. I guess they're on the way to New York,
Right.
to ship them back to Germany.
Mhm.
And I remember there was the guys were all telling, "Here's the finger to you German son of a bitches," Remember, think about that in them days. Jeez.
So that wasn't boot camp, was it? That was after you came back from the
After the
war.
war was over, yeah, we were coming home.
Okay.
We were on our way to Bainbridge for discharge.
Mhm.
Now we were over we just stayed we came in a train got into Bainbridge, Maryland,
Mhm.
and I slept there, and the next day we got discharged.
Oh. Nice.
Didn't take much. They give you a physical,
Uh-huh.
a farewell physical, and dentistry checked out, and they want you to. They give you a physical test.
Mhm.
And then nobody would take that thing. They say, "Hell, what?" Because you're out of shape already.
Mhm.
And I remember yeah, that was I think I got discharged on a Sunday, if I remember right.
Uh-huh.
But I remember I was in in the church mass in the morning.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing, I know that kid. Here was the Henry Hunt's, directly across the street from my Mount Carmel house.
Okay.
That's where he was like a couple of months younger than me,
Mhm.
and that's why the war was over, and he was a medical corpsman there. I'll never forget that.
Huh.
And I was, getting discharged and you see that somebody you really know.
Mhm.
But almost no matter where I went, I met people from Mount Carmel.
Really?
No matter where I was.
Huh.
Went to school with a bunch of guys from Signalman School. I met a couple of guys from my hometown.
Mhm.
Johnny Mazer, Ralph, and Charlie Romeli, Mousy Sedgwick. Yeah, no matter where I was, I met people. But at that time, all of us, they're all our guys. They with Clorox. You wrote your school hometown on.
Huh.
Just with Clorox.
Uh-huh.
You wet it and,
Yeah,
it dried. It bleached your name in white.
Huh.
Mount Carmel, PA on there. Mousy Sedgwick, I made. He was on Samar. He was on a PT base.
Mhm.
He was on PT boats, and I was basically on. At that time, was in supply. But it was a waste. It was. I don't know what they were worried about, because they just dumped everything away. When I was there on Samar, on Calicon, I was in I was on a signal supply and all the flags and stuff. And right next door, those Quonset huts were hooked together.
Oh.
Them Quonset huts are big. They were like 100 yards long and wide,
Wow.
and maybe about 3 or 4 would be hooked together, just boom, boom, boom. And the one next door, the Y warehouse, was all beer. No shit. I had all kind of friends. And the beer, you had to be careful.
Yeah.
But then they didn't have aluminum cans, and there was iron cans, and they were getting bad.
Ugh.
But I remember Iron City beer was in bottles. Them tiny bottles, squat bottles. And that's the only one I used to drink. Because I knew that was safe,
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't, but... Yeah, they had the only thing they had between my warehouse and the next one's over was a pig wire, It felt like fencing.
Yeah.
With a pair of cutters, we had wide open, and nobody cared. The war was like over already. And you know what water tastes like? Well, the water was really rotten. Was all they had. Calico was an island. Well, it wasn't very big, and it had a cave with fresh water in, but it was rotten. Geez, chlorine. Whew. And you never drank water, drink beer. And the best part, I never was crazy for beer, never. But you drank it because it was no good with water.
Right.
One thing in water was showers,
So Calicoan is an island?
Yeah.
Huh.
But they hooked it up with Samar. They put a causeway,
Uh-huh.
a road, just dumped. Like they cut the it was basically a mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at one time it was a volcano or what, I don't even know. But anyhow, they cut the mountain down,
Mm-hmm.
and then what dirt and rocks they built the causeway with,
Oh.
and then because that had a real good harbor
Okay.
for all kind of big ships coming in and out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had on Samar, right at Samar, where at the end of the causeway from Calicoan, there was the airport,
Oh.
airfield, not airport.
Right.
And the biggest planes that they had there, they didn't have any B-29s. They had B-24s,
Okay.
Liberators.
Ooh.
And they had a couple of transport planes. I was scheduled to go to Luzon for R&R,
Mm-hmm.
but before I went, I was on the draft to go home
Where's Luzon?
up in Manila.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's where I was supposed to go, to Manila.
Mm-hmm.
No, not Manila. What was the name of it? Baguio was where the R&R camp was.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go up there to see it because I heard a couple of the guys were up there, and they said that that's where they eat dogs and stuff.
Yeah.
They had nothing else to eat.
Right.
Cats, dogs, they eat them. With a pack of cigarettes, you can get anything you wanted for a pack of cigarettes.
Would you have eaten the dog?
No. We had eats like the war was over,
Mm-hmm.
and where I would Calicoan had big reefers.
Mm-hmm.
They had all kind of eats. The only thing we didn't have was fresh milk. You had
Like powdered milk?
powdered milk. But it's like steaks, we had anything you want. And on top of that, there was a kid with us from Shenandoah, near Mount Carmel.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember his name. But he was a master at arms.
Oh.
That's like a half-assed cop in the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah, he had 45. I don't know what he was copping about. Nothing. But he was cop. But he had base privileges for food, first class.
Nice.
And George Batella was first class for eats. Me and him. Well, I'm trying to remember what his name was. But he was a Slovak guy, just like me, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I know his brother was a priest. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember his name though. But he lived in, well, it wasn't Shenandoah. A little town named Shaft. It was that's the name of the town. It was only it was a coal mine village,
Mm-hmm.
and Shaft was right before you get to Shenandoah.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny that I never went to see him after the war, because he always asked me to go.